Caitlin Clark is not going to, they're calling this a big-time snub, where they have said that she will not be on the Olympic team. Now, I don't really understand why not. I believe most people say she is one of, if not the best basketball players, college basketball players in history. She's the leading scorer, if I'm not mistaken. And she's certainly well deserving of being on the Olympic team. And for whatever reason, the folks at the Olympics just said, no, we're not going to do that. And what I don't get, and I'm trying to figure this out, and I think I know the reason. But I'm trying to figure out why exactly is it that many people in the WNBA hate Caitlin Clark? Like, why is that? Is it because she's white? Is it because, as the women on The View said, she has pretty privilege? That's actually what they said on The View. They actually said that Caitlin Clark had pretty privilege. Is it a white privilege? What is it? Well, I think it's obviously jealousy. You see, the WNBA has not been marketable. The WNBA, for whatever reason, the WNBA has not been successful. And now Caitlin Clark comes along, and suddenly, is it because of her pretty privilege? Is it because of that white privilege? I don't know. But Caitlin Clark comes along, and she is the real deal. And I didn't hyperventilate over, there is this, maybe you saw the video where she got knocked down on the court, and it was a dirty hit. I mean, it was clearly a dirty hit. And people lost their ever-loving minds because Caitlin Clark was knocked down. And my feeling on that was, okay, well, wait a minute. I mean, dirty hits happen all the time in basketball. So does flopping. I don't believe that Caitlin Clark flopped, but dirty hits do happen all the time. I didn't get real excited about that, but what I really just don't understand is why exactly is it that everybody hates Caitlin Clark? I think it's jealousy because she is marketable. Is she marketable because how pretty she is? Is she marketable because she is very well spoken? Is she marketable because she's just willing to play nice with the media and answer the questions? I don't really know. But I think that there is a jealousy that is going on right now within the WNBA. And the dumb thing is, what this is actually doing is it is helping the WNBA. And as it helps the WNBA, doesn't that help everyone? But you see, the narcissistic, privileged athletes within the WNBA and perhaps the management of the WNBA as well, they just don't know how to handle a Caitlin Clark. I think that there's a lot of jealousy because she comes in and they're blasting Caitlin Clark at every turn. And they're bad-mouthing her at every turn. And Caitlin Clark is just like, well, whatever. For example, this is a great headline. Caitlin Clark's professionalism impresses the sports world after the Olympics snub. She was left off the Team USA roster. Now, some people say, just so you know that I give both sides of the story, some people say that the bottom line is for Caitlin Clark, it was about time. And she had not maybe practiced enough with the Olympic team to be able to actually go on and end up on the Olympic team. I really don't know if that's true because I really don't necessarily care about the Olympic teams. I just, for whatever reason, it's never been something that I was particularly interested in. And yes, I do consider myself a great American, whatever. But you know what she said? Caitlin Clark said that the snub simply added motivation to make the team in 2028 when the Summer Games heads to Los Angeles. That's what she said. A very classy way to frame it. And I love that. And you see, you got other people out there that are just blasting her literally at every turn. And it's unfair. And so the question is, why is it that everyone in the WNBA hates Caitlin Clark? Is it because of her race? There's other white girls in the WNBA. And that, I don't know if those other, I'm going to air quote this, the other white girls, I don't know if they suffer from those same issues, but luckily to help us sort all this out is our buddy David Cohn from Crain Company and Daily Wire. David, always great to have you on. Let me ask you, we're getting a little bit of late start, so let me just ask you this. As it relates to Caitlin Clark, everyone knows she's white, right? So, but there seems to be an unusual level of hatred against her in the WNBA. Is it because she's white? Because there's other girls in the WNBA, is there not?
I don't think it's solely because she's white. I think we're talking about something bigger, Dan. I think we're talking about lifestyle, right? And, one of the conversations that I have with one of my colleagues at the Daily Wire, Michael Knowles, and there's many of us that have these conversations, which is, how long will it be until Caitlin Clark feels forced to sort of adopt many of the lifestyle elements of the WNBA? And I don't just mean, this LGBT rainbow coalition aspect, but also Caitlin Clark, when she runs out there on the basketball court, she does not have tattoo sleeves all over her arms. She's not out there screaming any sort of woke messaging, Black Lives Matter messaging, anything like that. So will it come to a point where she feels the need to do that to truly be accepted by the WNBA? Or is Caitlin Clark, just so centered in who she is as a person that she says, hey, look, I can even be bigger than this league at some point. I can go off and do any number of different opportunities. I think my buddy Matt Walsh said, hey, she could go around the country in an exhibition form like the Globetrotters and make even more money than the WNBA. So I'm hoping that she stays true to whatever her values are that have gotten her this far, because she is an incredible talent. Of course, I do think there is an element of this that is skin color related. I just think it's even bigger than that when it comes to lifestyle, because like you said, there are other white players in the WNBA, but many of them get on board with the woke initiatives.
So what's going to happen? First of all, I don't believe that Caitlin Clark will acquiesce to the demands of the demented wokesters in the WNBA. But even if she did, they would just call her a white savior. Isn't that part of the deal with the, with some of these woke people, is if you are white and you sort of glom onto some of the things that this kind of community embraces, they just call you a white savior, and they don't want your help and they don't need your help.
Oh, absolutely, Dan. There is no action that one can commit in the 21st century that won't have some sort of not only criticism, but some quippy new term, some marketing term to go with it, right? I mean, you can't even tell people good morning anymore. So, yes, the white savior complex, she's going to get criticized no matter what. My thing is, hey, even at some point, Boston Celtics fans hated Michael Jordan and he was getting criticized. Can we at least leave the criticism because you hate that player because they are performing really well for an opposing team? I mean, that's what we mostly see in men's sports. Or if you want to talk a little bit about rookie hazing, I mean, I was just in Ann Arbor this past weekend, and I remember vividly being a freshman on campus, and the seniors on the football team, they hazed us. They enjoyed that. There is an aspect to that. But normally that's done behind closed doors. You don't see players around the NFL right now talking about the number one pick in Caleb Williams saying, well, he's already going to be a bust and he has so much to learn and there's far more talented people. No, you don't see that in men's sports as much. So this is a whole different thing. And, it really is surprising to watch someone bring so many eyeballs. I mean, look at us. We're talking about women's professional basketball today because of Caitlin Clark, and they want to turn that away.
David Cohn joining us from Crain Company, talking about what is going on with Caitlin Clark. Is possibly part of the problem here, David, that before Caitlin Clark, most people, as you just said, they really weren't fans of the WNBA, and maybe they still aren't fans of the WNBA, but they may be fans of Caitlin Clark. And so I think that there may be a bit of a jealousy because you're going to have people that had, pretty good numbers in the WNBA, but they didn't get the endorsements. Now here comes Caitlin Clark, and I'd be willing to bet that her jersey is selling really well. So is that also part of the dynamic here?
Yeah, for sure. And another thing, we have to understand the timeline a little bit. We're only weeks away from this young lady becoming the most prolific scorer in women's collegiate basketball history. Not only that, but taking Iowa into another deep run in the NCAA tournament and then becoming the most prolific scorer in NCAA tournament history as well. Gets drafted number 1, and now right away she's playing. This isn't like the NFL where the college football season ended months ago, and now we have to still wait more and more months before we get to see the rookies make their professional debuts. This was only in the span of a couple weeks that she's helping break television records, right? And everyone's tuning in. And I think that's actually one cool thing about the timeline that professional basketball and the women's game has right now is, yeah, hey, we get to see her. She was just in college a couple of weeks ago playing for a national championship. Now she's a professional. And so it's fresh on everyone's mind. Everyone wants to tune in and see what's going on. And the reaction on the other side of that is, well, she's just a rookie. She was a college basketball player just weeks ago. We have other more talented players here, which may be the case. I mean, what rookie just comes in and just dominates right off the bat, you know? But when you talk about girls going out of their way to make physical contact with her and to push her, that to me is something that is bigger than just, oh, there's a rookie in the game that's getting a lot of attention. That to me is even bigger than what we talked about previously when we said, oh, she doesn't necessarily adopt a lot of the WNBA lifestyle elements. I think there is some skin color issues that are involved when girls are going out of their way to target her and physically push her.
How bad has it been? I know that there was that one viral hit. I think it was at Kennedy Carter.
Yes.
Basically, I mean, pushed Caitlin Clark literally down to the ground. Clearly a dirty hit.
Yes.
But this does happen in the NBA, and it obviously is happening now to Caitlin Clark. But that was the one that I think a lot of people saw, but I don't think people really pay all that close of attention to the WNBA. I know that I don't. So how bad has the on-court abuse been of Caitlin Clark?
Like you said, it's a contact sport, right? And anything can be taken out of context. I mean, within the time frame of an entire basketball game, things sometimes get chippy. I mean, one argument was, oh, well, just a couple plays before that no one in the world saw, you know, there was physical contact on the other end. And look, I understand that. It is a contact sport. And anything that involves Caitlin Clark in any situation like that is going to go viral, and so it becomes headline news. But again, we've seen this multiple times already in only the span of a 2-week professional career, girls going out of their way to target her, and that's just the beginning of it, right? The second element of it is you have girls on the opposing team standing up and cheering, girls like Angel Reese, who Caitlin Clark just beat LSU just a few months ago, standing up and cheering that type of behavior. And then another element, which I don't think many people are talking about, but I want to talk about it, is Caitlin Clark's teammates. Where are they? Where are they coming to her defense already? That team needs an enforcer, and I really do. I mean, I don't want to compare whatever Caitlin Clark's career might be to what Michael Jordan did, because I do think Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player of all time. But if you watched the Last Dance documentary, which I would encourage anyone to check out, and you saw what the situation was like in Chicago when he got drafted, which is not that unusual. If you're getting drafted in one of those top picks, it usually means you're going to a franchise or a team that's not very good. That's why they need you. Michael Jordan came in and said there was a lot of things going on with drug use and with attitude that I didn't want to partake in, and it took time for us to get the culture right so we could win championships. I think that's what Caitlin Clark's going to have to deal with. They're going to have to get the attitude right there. They're going to have to get some enforcers on that team who come in and say, you know what, this is our star player. Take another cheap shot at her and see what happens next time.
And I love that, because I'm all about fighting fire with fire. And
yep.
I like what, you know, Caitlin Clark stands for. And I like that, you know, she got that Olympic snub. I only have 60 seconds left, David. Should she have been on the Olympic team?
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that because I just don't know the skill sets of all of these girls that we're talking about. Like you, I don't know the WNBA top to bottom. If she's not one of the best players, then I'm fine with her not going to the Olympics just because she would be a media sensation, right? Right. I think you and I and like-minded people listening right now are all in favor of meritocracy. There's way too much of this enforced diversity, equity, and inclusion. I don't want her to go just because of her skin color or because she would draw more eyeballs. If she's not one of the best players, I'm fine with her not going. I just feel that she quite possibly could be one of the best players on that team, especially to be able to come off the bench. And I'm just starting to ask a lot of questions on, man, I wonder if her snub has more to do with the reasons that we've talked about previously here today.
Man, so much to talk about. David Cohn, thank you very much for joining us here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Always love having you on. And this Caitlin Clark thing, I'm becoming more and more interested in this for a number of different reasons. I mean, you could talk about, well, what if the roles were reversed and you had a whole bunch of white folks, going after a lone black player? I mean, there would be, all kinds of things going on. You'd have people screaming and yelling, but it just doesn't feel like within the WNBA there's anybody sticking up for Caitlin Clark. And they've got this incredibly marketable player who shows nothing but class, and she is hated and reviled seemingly by a good part of the WNBA.